to introduce the political director of OIAC, who has really been on the forefront in helping raising the awareness on the importance of Iran policy. So please welcome Dr. Majid Sadeghpour.
Thank you all for being here, members of the media, staff, members of the Iranian American community. We put the program together to give a podium to members of Congress to talk about House Resolution 1148, but more importantly, talk about Iran and the solution. We are not here to talk about the threat that Iran has. That is fairly understood by members of Congress and now the American people. What is not understood is the solution, and the resolution highlights that very fact. The solution thus far is that the Iranian people have, not just recently, but since 1981, had an organized opposition movement that has withstood one of the most barbaric regimes that mankind has witnessed over the past 4 decades, has introduced a plan for a future of Iran that is Jeffersonian in nature, that aspires to bring to Iran a democratic republic where the people and the ballot box speaks. Now, the plan we are speaking about has been introduced. We see a copy of it here with us by Madam Rajavi, the 10-point plan that explains didactically the National Council of Resistance of Iran's structure for a Jeffersonian transitional government in Iran, affording the Iranian people the opportunity to vote at one day. When that day comes, we have full faith in the Iranian people's aspirations for that secular republic. That is what the Iranian people have tried to accomplish over the past century, led by their women. And it is not accidental that a woman leads the Iranian resistance. So here Congress goes in detail, not just outlining what the regime has done wrong, but introducing for the first time unequivocal support for the Iranian people's desire, and let's say it, to accomplish regime change. The people of Iran are not dying at highest per capita execution rate in the world to change the regime's behavior. The Iranian people are fighting for regime change. They want this establishment gone in its entirety. And so for so long as the international community engages in conflict with that aspiration, the U.S. policy, the international policy towards Iran will fail. Here, bipartisan members of Congress are saying, let's align the U.S. policy with the wishes and the aspirations of the Iranian people. And the way to do that is to first and foremost recognize their desire for that change. It is no longer a taboo term to demand regime change. But that change is not going to come by a foreign power from abroad, by bombs falling on Iran from abroad. It will not come by money. It will only come by our boots on the ground that are already there, the Iranian kids, the youth, the women. It is those youth that despite it all, when the world is at its knees trying to contain this threat, have the courage to go after this regime. Not one day, not 2 days, but for 42 years. It is impossible in a free democracy almost. It is very costly at the minimum to organize a few protests in 2 parts of the same city where individuals can chant the same songs, can have the same signs, can show up about the same time, can get home safely, that they're protected from predators, that they have a ride back home, and if they're wet, they're kept dry by the organizers. They're fed at lunchtime or whatever it may be. We would be hard-pressed to maintain that here in Washington, D.C., in 2 areas of town for a week. I would say at a minimum that would be very costly to do, regardless of if it is an agency or an organization or a company. But yet, some folks suggest that the Iranian people's uprising is without leader. They're wrong. Let's use that example. For September 16th of 2022, Mahsa Amini passed away, was killed, and ignited a protest movement in Iran again. Literally 6 days later, September 24th, 2022, uprisings began in Iran the way me and you remember it. And that protest movement was not in the streets of Washington, D.C. It was in a highly oppressive environment in Iran, a police state. Every tree has a sensor on it. Every camera in every corner of every city. These protests were not in one city, were not in two cities. They were in more than 280 cities across a country 5 times the size of Texas. And yet these kids, these girls, these women showed up every day, bled. They weren't walking in democracy. They didn't have a ride to get there. They showed up. They took bullets. They saw the dismembered and raped bodies of their comrades the following morning when they showed up on the street. They took bullets from the rooftops. They took machetes. They were chased down the alleyways. But they nevertheless showed up every day from September 24th, 2022, all the way to almost end of February 2023. That's a long time, folks. Without an organized movement, they would not be able to show up every day. They would not be able to have shelter. They would not have to have a ride to get where they're going. So what we're saying, what House Resolution 1148 is telling us, let's support the Iranian resistance. Let's not pretend this regime is changeable. The Iranian people squared with this regime 41 years ago. That is when the National Council of Resistance of Iran was formed. So we're here to thank the members of Congress. We thank you for being here as we wait and consume our lunch. I want personally, on behalf of myself and the entire organization, thank you all for listening to us. We ask you and urge you to speak with your members of Congress and to perpetuate this thought process that the Iranian people have a resistance movement. It is organized, it is capable, it has a plan, and a free, prosperous Iran is on the horizon. Thank you all very much.